Hello, everyone. Good morning, early good afternoon. I'm Genevieve Wood with the Daily Signal at the Heritage Foundation, and we appreciate you all coming to the May edition of Conversations with Conservatives. Many of you are regulars here, but as you know, this is an event that is normally chaired by three members, two of which are here right now. Congressman Huelskamp, Congressman Labrador, and Congressman Jordan will be here shortly. Congresswoman Cynthia Lummis is joining us today, and we have a number of other members who are running a bit late, but they are coming. So we're going to go ahead and get started. And I just wanted to remind everybody here, when I do open up the floor for questions, if you'll just please state your name and the organization or outlet that you're with so that everybody knows who we're talking to, that would be terrific. All right, great. We have another member coming in. All right, let's get started. I'm going to begin with one question on a topic that I know you all have been very engaged in, everyone here, and that's the topic of the Export-Import Bank. I read in Politico this morning that conservatives are increasingly emboldened that they have the votes, not necessarily to win a vote if it were to come to the floor, but to perhaps keep it off of the House floor. So let me ask you all, and I'll come to you first, Congressman Labrador, where do you think it truly stands, this whole debate?
Well, I thought the headline, I'm not sure that was exactly the message that we had. We were emboldened that we have the numbers in the Republican House, with the Republicans, but there's always a lot of things that could happen. There's a lot of tricks that could be used by the leadership. But the reality is that we have an issue where across the board, every Republican candidate for president is on board with us. Most conservative groups are with us. And all we have to do is do nothing. All we have to do is not put it on the floor, and we would be successful in stopping cronyism in Washington, D.C. You know, I tell my friends all the time that the Republican Party is the party of small government, the party of the people, but yet we're spending all this time, investing all of our time talking about how we can benefit the few at the expense of the many. And we should never be doing that as a Republican Party. So I think we can be successful by making sure that our leadership understands that the American people don't want to pick winners and losers in Washington, D.C. That's why we have a 15, 16, whatever the approval rating is. Every week it seems to change, but it's pretty low. And it is because they think that what happens to us is we come to Washington, D.C., we get elected, and once we get elected, we come here to just do special favors for special friends. And that should never happen in Washington, and it should specifically and especially never happen in the Republican Party. So I feel pretty good about our prospects, and I think we're going to continue to fight.
Is anybody here concerned that the Speaker, Mr. Boehner, is going to call a vote and team up with the Democrats on this one? Congressman Amash?
Thanks. I just arrived. I probably echo whatever Raul just said.
I wasn't quite that direct with him.
He does so at his own peril. I don't think the American people want our Speaker teaming up with the Democrats to push for corporate welfare. It's exactly the wrong thing for conservatives to be teaming up with Democrats for. So I expect that he won't. The American people are becoming aware of this issue. Maybe a couple years ago, they weren't as attuned to the kind of corporate welfare and corruption that goes on here. Now they're very aware of it. I had an exchange with the National Political Director of the Chamber of Commerce on Twitter last week, and the response I got in support of my position was incredible, and the backlash he got for pushing corporate welfare was also incredible. So people are fed up with it.
And the key is, most people don't know what the EXIM Bank is. Frankly, I didn't know what the EXIM Bank was before I got here to Congress. So, and I was a well-informed voter who was a member of the state legislature, who was passionate about politics my entire life. I wasn't fully aware what the EXIM Bank was. So most individuals don't really know the bank, but they do understand cronyism. They do understand special interest groups. They do understand that that's what they're tired of as Americans. And this is across the board. Republicans and Democrats are tired of special favors for special friends. And what concerns me, and so yes, I am concerned about Boehner getting together with the Democrats. But the second half of your question is what concerns me the most. The Democrats continue to say that they're the party of the small business. They continue to say that they're the party of the people, but yet they continuously ask for a bigger government that actually harms small business. They continue to ask for a bigger government that actually makes it less likely that individuals are going to prosper. And their policies are destructive to the American system of capitalism and all these other things. So it's interesting to me that, Elizabeth Warren, who's supposed to be the champion of the little people, she's the biggest defender of a crony capitalism system. And it's the only chance that she actually has to stop some of the cronyism that she seems to be attacking all the time. So you have every single Democrat on board saying that they want to pass this, that they're going to do everything they can to make sure that just a privileged few that give money to their campaigns get a benefit that not every American is receiving. And by the way, I just want to say, on a totally separate subject, thank you for the pizza. I was kind of tired of having the same menu every single week. So for the reporters, we're going to have different things, so you can all feel welcome to come as often as you want.
And for the record, your office did lead the charge on that, and we
Yes.
appreciate it. We want to make everyone happy here. Congresswoman Loomis, and then we'll open it up to the floor.
Your question about whether we're concerned that Speaker Boehner might team up with Democrats and bring this to the floor. I'm actually more concerned about that kind of thing happening in the Senate. I believe that Speaker Boehner will respect regular order on this issue and will allow the Ex-Im Bank to expire if that is what the House Financial Services Committee decides to do. I doubt, quite frankly, that the Senate will be as respectful of regular order.
All right, thank you. We will open it up to the floor. And again, I just ask if you would please state your name and your affiliation. We'll go to the gentleman first here in the back. And we have a microphone that she'll bring around for you.
Hi, Jonathan Weissman, the New York Times. I just want to hopefully get a canvas of all of you on where you are on Trade Promotion Authority, which is going to probably come to the House right after your break.
I'll start out. I'm currently leaning no. I want to see what the final product includes. But Trade Promotion Authority is about process. It's not about the trade agreement itself. So there are people within the Republican conference who could vote no on TPA, but also vote yes on trade agreements.
So the vocal majority of my constituents are against it, and I'm leaning no. I have gone to the classified briefing room, and I've sat down with the documents. Actually, Mr. Hulskamp and I sat down in the same session and went through those. It's very hard to interpret for us when we're not allowed to take notes. It references other agreements that we obviously don't have with us when we're in their meeting, and it would take a lot of effort for one congressman to understand what's in that room and what's in that document without being well versed in trade agreements. And I would like to hear more informed positions on the TPP, and that requires sharing knowledge of the TPP with more people, I think, before I fast track it.
As my colleague noted, we sat in a room and read, I think I finished it. I don't know if my colleague got to it. He's MIT grad. It took a little bit longer, so they do math stuff. Just kidding. So, but if you look, TPA is processed, but clearly without TPA, you won't have TPP, and you won't have an agreement with the EU, in my opinion. But the language is currently being negotiated and would have to be finalized after a TPA. I really like the language in TPP. I think it promotes markets, it promotes less government, and actually if you look at, we just had the issue of the Ex-Im Bank. I think the Ex-Im Bank is entirely inconsistent with TPP. and I don't think it necessarily would be not permitted, but potentially that might be an issue. That if you're going to trade with Australia, you probably couldn't use a TPP to make, or excuse me, the XM to make that happen, which is interesting. But the TPA, as it stands now, I think there are much more safeguards in there, that many more safeguards in there than in the past. I certainly represent an area that is willing and able to trade around the world. We're in agriculture in my district. Other industries are hit differently, but the safeguards are there, the protections are there, much more than any TPA, in my understanding, since they began with FDR. So I am a yes, and look forward to moving quickly on a TPP and in the future.
I am leaning no on TPA. I think I'm leaning yes on TPP, but obviously Tim is correct. Well, it's somewhat correct about we can't have one without the other, although we could put the TPP on the floor under just regular order. But the main concern with the TPA is the process, and there are ways that we can improve the process. There's a bunch of members of the Freedom Caucus that are going to introduce an amendment that I think would improve the process and would give us a better ability to control and to have a voice in what really happens during fast track. Our main concern is that it would require to go through a really lengthy process that to deny any kind of trade agreement, to turn down any kind of trade agreement. You have to first go through the Ways and Means Committee. Then you have to go through the Rules Committee. Then you have to go through the House. Then you have to go through the Finance Committee. Then you have to go through the Senate with 60 votes. Well, that's regular order, but at the same time, if the Ways and Means Committee decides that they like the trade agreement, I don't get a voice. I'm not on the Ways and Means Committee. I don't get to have that vote on the floor. If we can somehow bring that vote to the floor where I can have a yes or no vote, and every member of the House would have a yes or no vote on the trade agreement, even though most of us are predisposed to voting for trade agreements, I think we would feel a lot better about TPA. So that's what we're advocating for as conservatives, is give us this opportunity to vote it up or down, to have the debate on the floor, and obviously it can go through the different committees, but give us an opportunity to do this, and I think there will be a vote for it. Most of us could vote for the TPA.
Trade's opportunity to sell your products in broader markets. That's a good thing. I think all up here are for that. We, as been said already, we have concerns with the process. I have told the whip's office I lean no. The other new thing that's being talked about, and I think being done in the Senate, is they're adding trade adjustment to the actual trade promotion authority. That is a problem as well. We're hearing rumors that we may have a rule that will split them and then put them back together when it comes to the House. I think that is a problem. For that process, which has been attempted here before, I use the ESPN term trickeration. I just don't like that. Come straight forward with the bills, and let's do it that way. So I think, as has been said by a lot of people, the process is a concern for us, and that's why many of us have leaned no.
I whipped undecided, and for the reasons described here earlier. I, however, conceptually would like to support TPA. So I'm hopeful that some of these details can be worked out. The reason that TPA followed by TPP would be so valuable to our country is that about 95% of the world's consumers are not in the United States. So think about the markets that opens up for American products. And because of our tremendous ingenuity as Americans, we are capable of marketing products worldwide that are second to none in terms of the future, in terms of technology, in terms of quality agricultural products. The opportunities are stupendous if we would open up these markets to American businesses. So I hope I can vote for it, but for the reasons described by my colleagues, I whipped undecided.